just hit their name. I told Earl, I said, you know what? All of the baby boomers,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It looks like we're on. Good evening. Welcome to What's New. Tonight we're going to have a little bit of a different thing. Iris is out on leave for a little bit, and Martha Wiesinger and I are doing the show. We hope it's good. We have David Bova will be on tape, and we're going to have him to come on tape and talk about Proposition 3, and then Sam Ritter is going to come, and he's here in the studio tonight, so he will pick up from there. And if you have any questions, you may call in when Sam gets talking. But first we will have David Bova on tape. So Charlie, if you're ready, you can go ahead.
Hello, my name is David Bova, and I just want to thank St. John Community Access Television and the ladies of What's New for asking me to be here tonight. They've asked me to share the reasons why I don't think Amendment 3 is a good amendment and why I plan to vote no on it. Amendment 3 basically deals with redistricting and some campaign finance issues. I want to go over a little bit of history. Missouri used to have bipartisan commissions before the Clean Missouri Bill in 2018. Those bipartisan commissions were created in the Senate and the House by the governor and were given approximately 5 to 6 months to draw new redistricting maps for both the State House and Senate. That was done after each census, so in 2001 and 2011 those bipartisan commissions were created. However, they failed. In both of those years they could not come to an agreement on a map for the State House or the State Senate, and so those maps were decided by either a panel of 6 appellate Missouri judges, or they were appealed even further. So the process didn't work, and the process sometimes lended itself to gerrymandering, or let's just say critiquing a political district in order to benefit a particular party. Either party, it didn't matter which party, but it lended itself to some gerrymandering. And there's an example here in this district. I won't go into it tonight, but if you have any questions, feel free to find me. In 2018, Clean Missouri was put on the ballot. It was a ballot initiative, so it was put on there by by signatures of the people. It was not placed on there by the legislature. It was put on there by gathering signatures enough to place it on the ballot, and it basically was an attempt to make political state house and representative districts, state house and Senate districts more fair. Prior to Clean Missouri 2018, there were no limits on lobbyist gifts to state senators and state representatives. In fact, over the years of 2004 to 2017, there was an average of $885,000 a year given to the Missouri General Assembly from paid lobbyists. Those numbers are out there on the Missouri Ethics Commission website. Clean Missouri wished to address that in 2018. It also wished to address campaign contributions. It lowered campaign contributions for both individuals and entities. Clean Missouri 2018 lowered that no limit donation from, no limit gift from paid lobbyists to $5. There was a $5 limit on gifts for both state legislators and their employees, and that was probably the second best part of Clean Missouri 2018. The best part was the fair redistricting, and in fact it was the first thing put on that ballot. You can see here, this is the ballot language from 2018. It's got several bullet points of what it accomplishes. The very first bullet point states, shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to change process and criteria for redrawing state legislative districts during reapportionment. So it was very clearly put out there on the ballot. Clean Missouri 2018 also, like I said, limited the amount that individuals and entities could contribute to state house candidates. And of course, lastly, as I've mentioned, it changed the redistricting process, took it from those bipartisan commissions that I mentioned earlier to a state demographer. In fact, that particular change, as I mentioned, the very first bullet point on the 2018 ballot language was very specific, was very much discussed in advance of the vote, and it passed by 62% to 38%, a nearly 2-to-1 approval rate. You don't see a whole lot of things these days pass with nearly 2/3 approval, but Clean Missouri 2018 did. It was supported by Missouri AFL-CIO, it was supported by Missouri NEA, it was supported by Missouri Faith Voices, and many other organizations and individuals, including Senator John Danforth. So on to Amendment 3. Amendment 3, which is on the ballot next week, is an attempt to revert back to the bipartisan commissions that didn't work, even though, if you'll remember, 62% of people voted in favor of Clean Missouri 2018 and approved getting rid of the old process. Oddly, the ballot language for Amendment 3 also has 3 ballot points, but the redistricting is listed third as kind of the least important. Above that is listed bans gifts from paid lobbyists to legislators and their employees and reduces legislative campaign contribution limits. So just a few pieces of information. In reality, what those first 2 bullet points do is ban those $5 gifts that I just discussed were created by Amendment 1 in 2018. So it takes the amount of a gift that a paid lobbyist can give to a state house representative or senator from $5 to $0. While I'm for that, it doesn't change things a whole lot. It also lists on there that it reduces campaign contributions. In reality, if you read the actual resolution written by the Senate, what it does is take the campaign contribution level from $2,500 to $2,400. So it lowers it by $100, not some astronomical amount, but it does lower it, I'll give you that. Before I leave you or finish up tonight, I just want to address a few of the items I'm hearing and reading regarding Amendment 3. First of all, Clean Missouri 2018 does not give control of the redistricting process to the state auditor's office, which I'm hearing and reading out there. The state auditor is involved in the process. What happens if you want to be the new nonpartisan state demographer, you have to apply on the state auditor's website. The state auditor is then responsible for the completeness of those applications, making sure they're complete and accurate. And then the state auditor takes those applications and passes them on to the Missouri Senate Majority and Minority Leader. The Missouri Senate Majority and Minority Leader, typically a Republican and a Democrat, are then responsible for selecting the new nonpartisan state demographer. If they can't agree on one, they're each allowed to eliminate 1/3 of the candidates. Right now, they have 6 candidates before them. So as it sits, if they can't agree, they can each eliminate 2. That will leave 2. And then the state demographer is selected through a lottery random drawing. The state auditor's process is just to pass on the applications to the Senate. And she has already done that, in fact. You can go to auditor.mo.gov/demographer app, and you can see the 6 names that Auditor Nicole Galloway has passed on to the state Senate at this point. One of the other things I'm hearing, secondly, is that Clean Missouri 2018 worked to create fair districts. Is that it will create strange districts. Well, Clean Missouri 2018 worked to create fair districts and did provide some methods to calculate what's called fairness and competitiveness. Some are supposing that this new math or this new formula means that there will be strange districts composed of urban and rural voters who live hundreds of miles away, that there'll be voters in St. Louis City paired with voters in Caruthersville just to create a fair mixture. That is all supposition, and in fact the example I gave could not happen, as in the Clean Missouri 2018 bill, districts must still follow the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the U.S. Constitution, and of course voting districts must be composed of contiguous territory. So that example I gave cannot happen. Lastly, Amendment 3 contains draft errors. It's not written terribly well. You can actually watch a video on YouTube of the Senate committee that was drafting this amendment. The chairman of that committee states in that committee meeting that it was not written very well. Yet here it is before us on the ballot next week. One of the errors changes the term in the Senate Joint Resolution that basically is the body. This is Senate Joint Resolution 38, which is basically the body of Amendment 3. I'm going to turn a few pages here to a highlighted section where it talks about how districts are apportioned. And it says there, I apologize for shaking the table, districts, the current language says districts shall be established on the basis of total population. The new language, which is in bold here, and then the other language which is taken away is in parentheses, says districts shall be as nearly equal as practicable in population. There are those out there who suppose that that takes the term total population out of the amendment and then makes it possible to not count non-voting population. There are Republicans, Democrats out there who have said that won't happen because that would mean perhaps not counting children of voting age, not counting those who it is illegal to vote. And that would not be good because children make up significant portions of districts and need to be represented just as much as those who are of age to vote. And this is only done every 10 years. So if children are not counted in 2022, doesn't mean they won't be of voting age in 2024 or 28 until 2032 when the new districts are established. Again, it doesn't mean that it will happen, and I find it hard to believe that it would, but it shouldn't be in the language of the amendment either. So just to kind of wrap up, in conclusion, Amendment 3, it's drafted poorly. It eliminates solid reforms that were put in place to prevent gerrymandering and make fair, competitive districts, and were approved by 62% of Missouri voters already. And because it goes back to those bipartisan commissions, it could actually end up costing taxpayers more time, effort, and some money than the current process. So that's all the information I have. I want to again thank St. John Community Access Television and the ladies at What's New and ask you to vote no on Amendment 3. Thank you.
Well, we just discovered he's off. But anyway, Sam Ritter is here to talk to us about what David had said, and I hope he can clarify me on a bunch of stuff, because it was great to me. So Sam, we'll let you take over.
And that's one of the problems. It's everything about what happened in 18 and what's happening now with the two amendments. It's very confusing, but first I just want to say, David Bova is a great guy. He's one of my best friends growing up. We've known each other forever. So nothing I'm going to say has anything to do with anything Dave said wrong or anything like that. He's a great guy, and what he's presented as far as the history of how we got to where we are now, it's pretty clear. We follow that. I'll take exception to just a couple things. In 2000, after the 2010 census, the bipartisan commitments we had in the past, the House one ended up deadlocking. And there's a high bar to set on these commissions because we want that to be fair. Okay, so it takes 70% of the commission, a supermajority, to pass a new legislative map. And so when you have, let's see, I think the Senate was 6 and 6. You had 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats. For the House committee, you had 9 Democrats and 9 Republicans. So you put 50-50 on there, and you have to get 70% approval for a map to go through. Yeah, it was a high bar. But part of the process was if they could not, reach that 70%, they deadlocked, then the courts would come in and draw the maps. So what we have right now, that after the 2010 census, the House map was drawn by the appellate court. But the Senate map was actually approved by the commission. So the Senate map we're using actually was a commission-drawn one and got the 70% approval. So, it's hit and miss sometimes, but we've been doing this since, I think the commissions were put in place in the 80s, so we went through the 1990, 2000, and 2010 censuses under the bipartisan commission plan. But as far as one thing Dave mentioned, though, was that the ballot language was clear-cut in 18, and I'm not going to disagree, the ballot language did have it in there. But I don't know about who you talk to. No one gets in and looks at the ballot language, and that's how they decide to vote. You know, these campaigns don't put $4 million worth of ads on TV because people are going to read the ballot language.
Right.
And that was where the problem was. That's why I thought it was very deceptive. You know, the commercial we probably remember from 18 more than anyone else was this phone booth, what looked like a phone booth type box with cash flying around in it with
Yes.
someone standing inside of it, talking about, lobbyist reform. I got no problem with lobbyist reform. Talked about campaign finance, limits. I got no problem with campaign fine limits. The only thing it mentioned about redistricting was 3 words: requires fair districts. That was all that was said in that ad. So I don't know how anyone could look at that ad and know that we were going from a bipartisan commission that we've had in place for 30 years to hiring one person to draw the entire map. Now, to me, part of our democratic values from our Constitution is checks and balances.
Right.
And the checks and balances weren't very strong in what we passed in 2018. Dave's correct. It does go, once that demographer draws the map, it goes to the legislative commissions. But the problem is, it takes 70% to tell the demographer that's not good. What that means, though, is whoever controls 31%, a very small minority, can approve the plan by the demographer. So, you understand where I'm looking at this.
Yes.
You can see how we go from commissions drawing a map with a 70% supermajority to approve the plan, to a single person drawing the plan, and only 31% need to approve it. That's a very low bar to hit.
That's why.
So like I said, I wasn't very happy with that. The other thing they did was, they talk about gerrymandering. And gerrymandering comes in 2 different ways. One is packing. Packing is like, we're going to take all the Democrats from a certain area and we're going to draw districts in such a way that we put as many Democrats into the same district. So say you had 3 counties around an area. That's pretty evenly split 50-50, but you can pick out different precincts out of those 3 counties. And you can put them in a particular district. So what you would have had was 3 50-50 districts, and now you've got 1. Okay, we'll give the Democrats 1, but then we'll get 2 Republican districts out of that. No more 50-50. That's what's called packing. All right?
Okay.
And, that's usually the way you see gerrymandering happening, is you see packing. Unfortunately, what we have had in Missouri is citizens alone, on their own, with no help, have packed themselves. If you look at the 2016 election, look at the presidential election, you had 3 areas that were blue: St. Louis City and County, Kansas City, and Boone County. It's Columbia. They were blue. Every other county in Missouri was red. Okay? And the problem is, inside the blue areas of Kansas City and St. Louis, you have precincts that were 95% for Clinton, only 5% for Trump, or probably the Green candidate. I can't remember her name
Yeah, I know
anymore.
who you're talking about.
Whereas out in the county areas, most of the places it was more like 60, 65 to 30, 35, 40, something like that. So you add up all the vote totals for the entire state, you can say, well, it's close to a 50-50 state in a lot of ways. But it's not in all those red counties. You had every single red county, and I'm thinking, except for 2 of them, in the presidential election, it was at least 60% or more red versus, less than 40% blue. Now, the demographer is going to take all this data based on presidential elections, governor elections, and Senate elections, the 3 highest statewide elections. And their job, this demographer, is to find a way to make all those districts competitive. Well, obviously, the state's legislature, the bipartisan commission, they're not packing the districts. We've packed ourselves, okay? And I know, you come back, you're older than me even, so, and I'm pretty old. I remember growing up, and there was no Democrat, and nothing but Democrats to vote for in
Right.
St. Genevieve County as far as countywide offices. That's just the way it used to be.
I know it's another county in Illinois that's that way.
You know,
If you have any questions out there while Lee
Oh,
is
yeah,
talking, be free to call in and ask. Okay,
so,
continue.
we grew up in a county that you had to be a Democrat to be elected. That's just the way it was. Okay, it didn't mean there wasn't competitive races.
No.
The competitive races just ended up on primary day instead of
Right.
on election day. People
Right.
still ran against each other. You still had choices.
Right.
Okay, and that's where it is right now. My feeling in Missouri, and probably this is nationwide too, one party tends to be representing cities, and the other party tends to be representing rural areas. Okay, and you can see that when you look at a map, whether you're looking at a national election or a state election, all the blue areas are in these highly populated cities, and all the rest of the areas in between are red. Okay, and that's not a problem. That's people in those communities. They're just picking and choosing who they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, when you get so many concentrated into a small area like St. Louis and Kansas City, you can look at it and go, well, it's a 50-50 state, but how come all the representatives and legislatures are so many Republicans in there? It must be unfair. And what you had is you had a lot of people from outside our state come in and go, we need to fix that. But it's not a problem,
Right.
okay? The commissions did not, when they drew the maps, didn't pack people into St. Louis City. They didn't pack people into Kansas City or to Boone County. They didn't reroute. St. Genevieve, for whatever reason, votes more Republican now than it used to. It's just, voting trends change over
Right.
time.
Right.
And our county, we're about 18,000. So we're just a little over half the size of a legislative House district, which is 37,000, I think, right now, approximately. So the last thing we want is to have that split up while people try to carve out a few Democrat precincts and add them to another area, and we end up with 3 or 4 splits in our county when we're trying to elect House representatives. And that's what would happen because the new process that's currently in place now, and that will stay in place if we vote no, is that this demographer is going to take partisan voting data and start using it to make House districts and Senate districts. And that process is gerrymandering. It's called cracking. Packing is taking up all the ones from these competitive areas and put them in one area, so it's not competitive. Cracking is doing the opposite. It's taking uncompetitive areas and pulling in them into, cracking them, splitting them up to put them in with other areas to create artificial competition.
Oh,
Okay, those are the two definitions of gerrymandering, packing and cracking. And Amendment 1 from 2018 basically made cracking the very first thing it wants you to do. It wants you to look at partisan voting data and make artificially competitive districts. And the reason the Missouri Farm Bureau is one of the biggest supporters of Amendment 3 is because they understand if you start cracking these districts, the power of rural districts with farmers in it is going to be weakened in Jeff City.
I was going to say it was going to slowly disappear.
Absolutely. And I understand why people think from outside our state go, well, you have so many people in those cities, they should have more representation. They're all represented.
Yeah.
Everyone's represented.
Yeah.
But the problem is, the only way to bring more representation for them is to start mixing them in with people out in the county or further. And Dave mentioned in his video about people who say it could reach all the way down to Boot Hill. Even Dave didn't deny that's a possibility for the most part. He said, well, it's supposition. The reason why it's supposition, and this is the other problem I have with the 2018 process that was voted on, no one does that. There is no other state with a process like what we have in place. Every other state falls under basically one of three processes. One, the state legislature draws it up. Two, they use bipartisan commissions like we did. Or three, they have independent commissions that don't have any kind of party representation. Those are the three processes used in almost every single other state. No one else has went into it and tried to use statistic modeling to talk about wasted votes and create artificial competitive districts. And so it's a gamble. So all these, and there's a reason why the outside money came in. This is just for the most recent month. I told Charlie I wouldn't hold it up. This is just the most recent month of money that went into the Clean
Got a
Missouri.
board there that you can put it on,
Oh, okay, cool.
and he can have Charlie focus in on
Maybe you'll be
it.
able to see it. This is the money that went into, I'll hold it like that. I'm upside down.
Is that little block? that
Am I
little
doing it
thing
wrong?
pull it- Is there a little thing that you pull out in the back?
Well, there's something here, but, oh,
Yes, there we
there we
go.
go. See, gotta be smarter than that.
As soon as he gets this fixed,
There
Charlie.
we go.
So like I said,
Okay,
you're not gonna be able to
now,
read that.
Charlie.
But what this is, just
I
in the
can
last
see,
30
yeah.
days, these are the amount of donations that came into the Vote No campaign, either through Clean Missouri or, and this is what I love, Clean Missouri was all about getting money out of politics, right? They have raised 20 times as much money to oppose Amendment 3 as the money collected to support Amendment 3. There's only about $250,000 being spent to vote yes on Amendment 3. And most of that, was by the Missouri GOP party, the Missouri Farm Bureau, and one group out of Kansas City called the Alliance for Missouri Freedom. So from here down is Clean Missouri. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see groups at 500,000. The North Fund, $1 million they gave from a group in Washington, D.C., so that we have our process changed on how we elect our state representatives, or how we draw our maps for our House districts and Senate districts. You can research the North Fund. They're actually under an ethics violation investigation in other states for putting money on ballot initiatives like this, because no one knows who they are. No one knows who their
I was going to
supporters
say,
are.
I've never heard of him.
Exactly. No one knows where their money comes from. They won't divulge it. Okay? But this other group called Clean and Accountable actually has the same treasurer as the Clean Missouri group. It's been in existence for about 18 months. Never had a single report filed where they collected any money. And then suddenly, starting in October, well, there's 40,000, 25,000, 109,000, 25,000, 70,000, 100,000 from this one couple who, he's a former Enron exec who lives in Houston, Texas. Put $100,000 of his own personal money in, plus his group that he runs called Act Now Initiative in Houston, put in $500,000 the next day.
Whoa.
Okay? These are a lot of outside groups who want to roll the dice in Missouri and see if it comes up snake eyes for them or if it comes up big.
Right.
Okay? Because if it comes up big for them, then they will use that process and they will extend it out into other states.
Yep.
But no one else is doing it. So when Dave says it's just supposition, he's right. It is just supposition. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I'm very worried about what could happen to small rural communities like St. Genevieve. That's my biggest concern. So,
Yeah.
We could talk about Amendment 3 about the $5 limit. I'm all for getting rid of the $5 because it was $5 per occurrence. So that means that lobbyist could come in and give you a $5 coffee every single morning. So
Okay.
it doesn't seem like a big money,
Right.
but take 6 months of getting a $5 gift every
Right.
morning. It's
It adds up.
It
adds up.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. No problem. I don't know why they left the $5 in. Unless it's just a loophole for who knows what, I ain't gonna say. As far as lowering campaign, yeah, it only lowered it $100, but it also capped it at that number. Under the current, legislation, or current amendment that was passed in 18, it actually goes up every year with the CPI, it's indexed. So it's $2,500, but it'll continue going up and up over time. The 2,400 is locked in, there's no CPI index, it won't go up anymore. It'll stay at $2,400. All good, not a problem. On those, and on the other points from, the Clean Missouri Amendment in 2018, I didn't have a problem with it. But Clean Missouri in 2018 was primarily about redistricting. Amendment 3 is primarily about redistricting. The reason it's on the ballot is because we don't believe the voters were informed in 2018.
No, I never heard of it.
I really don't believe, St. Genevieve voted for 80%.
Yeah.
Really?
I have no doubt that 80% of the people of St. Genevieve County did not know exactly what Clean Missouri was going to do. It's complicated.
Yeah.
All right, even explain it now, it's complicated, isn't it?
It is.
You almost have to be in politics or follow politics
It's
to understand it. Well,
it's difficult.
it is.
And what bothers me more than anything is not that we might do something different, but that we're being, all these outside groups have their finger in it, trying to convince us.
Right.
Because I think we can all say, based on what Dave said and what I've said, the ads aren't being true.
Right.
No.
Okay, the ads are not indicative of what the actual amendment does, either in 18 or what they say now. I've seen the ones with I can't tell you how many times I'll turn on the TV and they got the little clown circus commercial. Vote no, it's a big gift for politicians. It's a bipartisan commission.
It's confusing.
Like I said, even the House was drawn by the 6-panel appellate court. How is that a gift to politicians?
Right.
All right. And it's not a gift to politicians when communities can be represented by the same person. Okay?
Yeah.
Right now, I can go to a restaurant in town and I might see our state representative sitting there having dinner. Okay? It's not out of the ordinary to see Dale. Okay? And, before Dale and before Kevin, who was our state representative? It was Joe Fallon. Okay? These are all people that we can know. But if they start splitting up our district, okay, we got 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, it's 18,000, person community, split up into threes. Well, now we're only the power of 6,000 in each of those.
Right.
How many times are we going to see those state reps coming into our area? Where's our voice in Jeff City going to be? It's going to be wherever the other 30,000 residents are that are voting for him. It's not going to be where we are.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so for me, passing Amendment 3 is about protecting our voice.
My goodness. You have a
I just said
question?
hello.
David got a question.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. Sure. Okay, hold on just a second, and I'll let him know that. Or, you know what, how about if I let him,
Can we put on speaker?
you know what, yeah. Here, okay, this is my first time doing this, so, I'm gonna put you on speaker, hold on just a second. I think it's right here. Okay, and what's your name?
It's Linda.
Linda. Okay, Linda, you wanna ask that question again?
Yeah, Sam,
Uh-huh.
would it be possible to put those facts and figures, all of these outside contributions, put that on Facebook so people are aware where all this money's coming from?
Oh, I would be more than happy to do that, but you can also go right to the Missouri Ethics Commission. All these groups have to file disclosure reports, and there's actually a place where you can search Clean Missouri and Clean and Accountable, and I'll put links to that. I can put that on my Facebook page for sure.
Okay.
Is there a particular place you'd like to see that at?
I just, well, maybe what's going on in St. Genevieve.
Can we put that
Might
on
be a
what's
good
going on in
one.
St. Genevieve?
Yeah, well, I will definitely put something together, and like I said, what I can pull will be right from the Missouri Ethics
Is that
Commission.
what, it's called What's Going On in St. Genevieve?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I will definitely put that stuff out there. I'm more than happy to share as much information as possible so people can, like I said, I'm not going to tell everyone how they have to vote, but I want to make sure they have as much information as they possibly can.
Oh, sure,
I'm all
sure.
for that.
Well, thank you.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for calling, and we'll get that taken care of, okay?
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. I apologize.
No.
I wasn't sure. I said, hello, I was thinking, okay.
Mark,
I
put it on
don't think
speakerphone.
I'm
Come on.
right, so there we go. Now we'll know what to do.
Oh.
She knows more about it than I do.
Yeah, no problem.
I have no memory of it.
No problem. I do want to bring up one thing Dave mentioned, and I've seen this, and I can understand why Dave wanted to bring it up. The population, who actually is going to be represented, every single state legislative body and the in the Congress, everything, basically every legislative body except for the U.S. Senate falls under the principle of one man, one vote, one person, one vote. And that's the language that's used in Amendment 3. Population with the principle of one person, one vote. And for every single legislative body except the Senate, in the U.S. Senate, that goes by total population, includes children, immigrant, basically the entire population of the state. That's used in every single legislative body in the United States of America, with the exception of the U.S. Senate. All right, and all that's provided for the principle of one person, one vote. It's been that way since 1963, since the Reynolds versus Sims decision. Mm-hmm. Okay, we actually, at one time, you had state senates that worked a lot like the U.S. Senate, where it was a demographic area, and no matter how many people lived in it, they got a senator. So you had senates seats that were wildly different districts. You might have 3 times the population in this district than this district, but they all got the same number of votes. So just like states.
Right.
One state's bigger, California's big, New Hampshire's small, but they got 2 senators each. So some states actually had that kind of process for their state senates. But the Reynolds-Sims decision said no, total everyone goes, all the Senate districts had to be equal population. Okay, and ever since then, one person, one vote goes for all the state legislative bodies. So children will be counted,
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
okay? That's
so-
not gonna change.
okay, that's going to be in this election.
That's for
Everybody-
Amendment 3. Nothing's gonna change as far as how the
Okay,
population's
the
counted.
population, okay.
If anything, if we're ever gonna change, it would happen at the court level. Okay? Because honestly, there might be a point in time where we look at immigrant populations and go, do we count them for representation? There was a lot of debate this year on the census on
Right.
whether to ask people if they were here legally, their
Right.
status, basically.
Right.
So there might be a time in the future where a court ruling might say total population means
They have-
citizens, but that's not the way it is right now. No one goes by that.
Yeah.
All right, so I did want to answer that. I think I went through most everything I had on mine. I'm sure, like I said, it's not a simple question.
Right.
It is not simple.
But it wasn't a
Right.
simple question in 2018.
Right.
And they want to make it sound like it was a simple question in 2018.
Right. I think that's what, in the last few years, when amendments and things like that would come up, shall the state, shall they, and if you're not a person that really reads into this, either you go, shall means, okay, what does shall mean? And so they kind of tend to vote, not always what they think they're voting
Right.
for. I mean, I've done it.
I think
But-
people are going to be confused this time. There's going to be people that's not understanding what they're voting
Yeah.
for.
And I'm going to be honest, we're just talking now.
Well, sure,
I'm not a big fan of amendments
right,
because we put so many small things into amendments
That's
Yes.
right.
at the state level.
Right.
And it confuses a lot
You
of
know,
people. I mean, you
and-
don't know where you're at.
Myself, this has nothing to do with this election.
Right.
I would be happy if amendments needed a higher threshold to pass. Just like if you want to pass an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, it's got to have like 3/4 of the states, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's more of a
Right.
supermajority kind of concept
Right.
rather than just a pure 50/50.
and then you won't be
50%, so.
asking for such smaller things. And I don't mean this being a small, but.
No,
not
this
as
one's
much as-
been in the Constitution,
Yes,
so
it's been in there.
So this one has to go that route. But
Right.
there's a lot of things that are thrown out there as amendments that,
Yeah.
Some of them
Do
don't
they
make
need to
sense.
Do they need to be there or not?
I'll tell you.
This is,
yeah. It's what-
you know, this is, and another thing, is this something that should be on, like a presidential election? Or could it be on a, like a prime, oh,
I'll answer that after we do this
a
one.
pri- okay. Hello? Hi, John. Hold on just a second, okay? There we go. I can't see. Okay, John, you can talk, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, did you say that they're going to redistrict St. Genevieve?
After the 2020 census, John, they're going to take that information and they're going to redraw districts. That's just the normal thing that happens every 10 years. What this amendment is about is the process. Right now, what was voted on in 18 is having one person draw all the maps. In the past, for the past 30 years, we've had bipartisan commissions, or the courts, if the commission's deadlocked, would redraw the district. So if you remember back in 90, after the 1990 census, I believe we were in a district with part of Perryville County. And then after the 2000 census, St. Genevieve was in with parts of Jefferson County. I think we had reached all the way up to DeSoto, if I remember correctly. And then after the 2010 census, 90% of St. Genevieve County was put in with part of St. Francis County, Farmington area. A little sliver on the north end is in with Jefferson County. That's Elaine Gannon's
Oh,
district.
yeah.
So it's going to be done either way. It's just what happens every 10 years.
So we might end up losing Dale Wright.
Yeah, very possible.
Oh, my gosh.
I tell you what, he's done a lot for my business.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that kills me is, I think it was 2018. Was that the big election for Dale Wright?
I believe so.
I think so, John.
Yes.
Well, his opponent, now I'm just curious, his opponent back then has put up at least 50% of the vote no signs. I'm wondering how he'd react if he would have won, if he'd still be putting vote no signs out.
Well, I know, Bill, and I can't answer that.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I ain't gonna try to guess on that
reminds me of I know Martha's sitting there at bait and switch like I feel on some of your school board stuff. So,
Right, right.
you know, they don't fully. I mean, how can we expect to trust a lot of them in Jeff City when we can't even get a license bureau? These poor people are dying to have a license bureau in this town, and this bureaucracy keeps it from us.
John, can I be honest with you on this one?
Yeah?
In the old days, that used to be a patronage item, okay?
Yeah.
And people didn't like it. Governor, whoever happened to be in power, whether it was Democrat or Republican, they would pick who was going to run the license office. It was done fairly quickly. It made a few people mad occasionally that it was taken from this person, given to that person. I understand that. But we weren't sitting here waiting for lawsuits and bidding and complaints, and we've been without one. You wouldn't have been without one for 8 months under the old system. Sometimes, some things are just patronage items from the old days, and we just got to deal with that because it's part of the process, but it gets things done quickly. Just like if we have an elected official who has to resign or passes away while they're in office, we don't sit there with that spot empty. The governor selects someone to go into that spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Sometimes, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's the spoils.
People better think long and hard if they're going to lose Dale Wright, because he has helped me in my business, and I don't know who we'd end up with. So
John, he's an
they better
amazing,
think long and hard on all that stuff before they vote.
absolutely, he's an amazing person.
Yeah. What I'm most scared about is when this demographer uses statistical models to start drawing lines. They're going to be sharp lines that don't follow community lines. You're going to have like little triangles and squares
Right.
that just run roughshod over over county lines. And like I said, we could end up with a V shape going through our county. So you got the north side, parts of the center, and then the south going all sorts of which ways, or a thin strip going through the middle of St. John County, down between Perryville and Jefferson. And, we just don't know.
Right,
And I'm not one that wants to throw the dice on something like that.
right.
Yeah. well, it's got to be something to it that the Farm Bureau's for a vote yes. So
Yeah, the Farm Bureau has been putting out a lot of roundtable type discussion videos. If you go to the Missouri Farm Bureau Facebook page, they have a lot of information on this as well.
right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I encourage
good.
people to look it up and everything.
Absolutely.
Do your homework before you vote.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's great,
Well,
Joe.
on all of them really, but
Yep.
all your what you're voting on this time. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a good evening.
All right,
You too.
thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, those are really some good questions.
Yeah.
You know, and good thing you were here to answer those.
And it is a risk. You know, after the census, populations move, so there's always a risk when, you know, lines are redrawn,
Right,
you know, that you might not have your representative anymore, so.
right.
But I think the configuration we have makes a lot of sense right now with St. Genevieve. Pretty much is its own county,
Right.
you know, except for that tiny sliver that goes up to Jefferson.
Right.
Which hopefully Jefferson's populated enough now they can give us our
They
sliver
can,
back.
right, right. So what would happen if that,
Those work.
if it would do the redistricting? Oh my gosh, my mouth is so dry. Redistricting, districting. There.
Redistricting,
I
yeah.
can't- gotta get
Well,
it.
if for some reason the map got drawn by the demographer and Dale's no longer in our, well, I mean, so I guarantee we're gonna be split up differently than we are now if the demographer doesn't. Because we
Okay.
are one of the few close to 50-50 counties in Missouri.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
seriously, you know, the majority of the counties in Missouri are either all blue or all red. We're one of the few that kind of rides that line, okay? So we would be pivotal in what happens probably going forward with
Right.
the demographer's competitive concept.
I don't like for somebody to tell me how to vote. I'm sorry.
Well, I just.
understand that completely.
This is really, I mean, this
Yeah.
is a really important issue.
So if
It
the county
is.
gets split up like that, you might have a third of the county that still has Dale as their representative, okay? But it might not be John's third.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he's really.
So that's why Amendment 3's first priority in setting up districts is to keep communities, counties together. That's the primary goal of redistricting, because you can't gerrymander if you just keep the counties together
Right,
first.
right.
It's very hard to gerrymander. You can't pack, and it's when you start splitting up counties and you can start pulling out different portions, different precincts go, well, I want this area moved here.
Yeah, because
That's
you
when
know.
you can pack or crack a
It's crazy.
gerrymander. And that's what
Right.
we don't want. St. Genevieve, like I said,
Right.
right now, the power of St. Genevieve is the fact that we are half of a full congressional district,
Right.
or representative district.
Represent.
Okay, you know, 37,000, we're
Mm-hmm.
right at the half point. We have a lot of power in Jeff City, in our community,
Yes, we do.
as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you start splitting it up, that voice in Jeff City gets a little smaller.
Gets
And
weaker.
so, whenever I've been promoting Amendment 3 on, you know, on Facebook and among friends, that's my number one thing, is protect our voice for our community in Jeff City. Because you know, you split us up, we're very small. then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know, John was talking about the license bureau. We are getting one. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
were
Oh,
we?
Yeah,
we got that now?
yeah.
Will
Well,
we
it's-
have one
it's-
next year?
It's working.
It's
It's
working,
it's in
okay.
process.
Ah, okay, good.
Yeah, it's in process, so that's a good thing.
Good, and I won't mention why, but I definitely need to go to one of those.
Yeah.
sometimes. Off
I'm
the
gonna need
record.
to go to one.
Well, you know, the fun part, I mean, I've heard people that, you know, knock on wood, hadn't had to go this year yet, but, you know, if you go to Festus, you were waiting hours. If you go to
Right.
Perryville, you can get in real quick or whatever, but, I knew some people that happened to, but, yeah, we definitely need one,
Yeah.
you know?
Like I said, it was the old spoils concept
Right.
of whoever was in power got to
And
throw
and
some
it was,
offices
if
around.
you were a Democrat, a
And
Democrat.
I understand, people
Right.
don't like that, it
Right.
doesn't seem fair.
Right,
You know, but sometimes things in life just aren't fair. A guy won an election, sometimes there's things that go with that.
well,
But-
You know, they can pick who you know, it's like when the president wins, well, okay, well, they fire all the U.S. attorneys and put new U.S. attorneys. You know,
Right.
it comes with the office
right.
sometimes, you know,
Just
we
get
might
somebody
not
in
like
there. I
it.
don't care who you get
You
in
know.
there. I don't want to travel. I want to stay here in town.
I'd rather have the government, what little bit of the government is we need,
Right.
which I don't like, we need all of
Right,
it.
but here,
If you didn't know, I'm a Republican who likes small government,
Right.
all right? So the little bit of government that we need, I want it to work efficiently.
right.
Well, if you stop and think about it, it's inconvenient for people to go out of town to get a license.
absolutely.
Because this is really a lot of older I mean,
It's an older
I'm not saying it's an
No,
older
no.
community, but I mean, there's a lot of retired people in
Right.
this
Oh,
community.
yeah.
And a lot of people that have been born
Are over
and raised
50,
and have
you know.
descendants of
Yeah.
people here. And we can't get up and just go.
And the last 6 months is the last time you want, it's the worst time to expect them to have to go to and, you know,
Right.
mix germs with another community right now.
Absolutely.
I agree. That's one of the
Absolutely.
biggest failures
Yeah.
right now for St. James County is the fact that we still don't have a licensed office operating.
No,
Absolutely.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we just have the type of people that, like I said,
We need
it's
it.
Oh, yeah.
it's a great town. It's a wonderful town. I love
Oh, I
it.
love this town, yeah.
yeah.
And it's, but we just have the older, the
It's a town
retired,
wanna
and
retire.
we have the ancestry. We have the descendants and the ancestry here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's like me, and I'm gonna say this again, I feel really awful that I don't have, that Dave couldn't be here tonight,
Oh,
and we had to do the video,
right.
because this would have been a very different discussion if Dave was here, there'd be
Right.
counterpoints, so
Right.
take everything I say with a grain of salt, because
Right.
there's no one here
Well, I thought it was very good.
there's no one here punching holes in what I'm saying.
Well,
so-
and the good thing, and nobody would be doing that. We got to hear what he had
Mm-hmm.
to say. And even though we got to ask you, it would have been, you know, we may have a different answer from Dave, but
Yeah.
anybody knows, like John, anybody knows, they can get a hold of Dave, and he said that.
Sure, absolutely.
If they need to, you know, they want to hear the other part.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And Dave, like I said, Dave's a great guy.
Absolutely, you both are.
You know what, I'm not gonna say anything he's saying
Right.
is, you know, deceptive or wrong,
Right.
obviously not. I'm more talking about
You just,
these
right.
groups and
Right.
what they're saying in their advertisements on the air.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm calling deceptive.
Right,
All right.
right.
You know,
Well, we get both.
Well, and you know,
Get
you
both
guys,
views.
Yeah.
I've
It's
heard people
wonderful. I think it's great.
on both sides of this. But you know, if you seriously just watch ads on television,
Oh, my God.
you wouldn't vote for any of them,
No.
anybody.
No,
It's like, wait a minute, you mean she's done that, he's done that? You wouldn't vote for any of them.
That's
Or you
all
don't
it
want
is.
anybody in there
No.
that does that.
it's,
But-
it's not constructive ads. It's not ads of what they really want to do or what they're going to do. It's
Right.
not constructive. It's one guy batting down the other
Right.
guy.
Right.
It's
Don't-
just back
Don't say
and
nothing
forth.
bad about
Yeah.
me, just say, I
Yeah.
just want to tell you what I'm gonna do.
and,
Okay.
Why,
Thank you.
why throw it around? Why,
and,
It's so
well, I'm gonna be
stupid.
honest, most of that actually isn't coming from the campaigns of the actual individuals,
Right.
first of all.
Right.
Because
it shows
this
who
came
it's
up
from.
2 years ago between Dale and Bill in their house race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dale's running a nice clean campaign, Bill's running a nice clean campaign, and then another group in the state started sending out mailers, okay, comparing Bill to communists.
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
And you know, and
it's crazy.
you know, I went and apologized to Bill and talked to him about Dale, called up Bill and apologized, and made sure he knew that it had nothing to do with Dale's campaign.
Right.
And so a lot of times those attack ads come from other source
Well,
groups that have
sure
nothing to
it
do with
is.
the candidates.
Right, and if you listen, it'll say sponsored by so-and-so, I'm
Right.
thinking, who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually knew someone that was part of the group that ran the ad, so I got a hold of them and told them they need to stay out. and not do
Yeah,
that
I
kind
look
of
at the
stuff
little
anymore.
lines underneath.
Yeah.
I see who put that up.
But I'm also gonna say this, unfortunately, attack ads work.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
They convince a lot of people.
They
That's-
do.
That's why we're talking,
do.
you know, I think that's why we're talking about this right now, is because
Right.
attack ads work. You know,
Right.
where they shade the truth on what they're presenting a little
Yes.
bit, but,
And it's so wrong.
yeah.
Well, and you know what, I remember, I can't remember what the things were that you voted on, but it was, remember a couple times, if you vote yes, you're supposed to vote yes if you don't want it.
Right, yeah.
Or
I
whether,
don't remember what
you
that
know,
was.
yeah,
but-
and I'm thinking, no, don't confuse people, just get it out there, let them, if they vote, if they don't, they don't, you
Was
know,
that
I
on the
can't
medical
remember.
marijuana
I don't
thing,
remember
maybe?
what it was,
Oh,
but it
man.
was.
I remember there was one like that,
Yes, it
where a
was-
yes vote meant no.
Yes, yes.
A yes
And
vote meant you don't want it.
You don't want it.
Vote
You're
no
right.
if you did want it.
Right.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was very confusing.
Ballot language, and truthfully, and this is where this came
That's
into.
where all this comes in.
Ballot language is important, and it's, here's, one of the problems we have is everything can go to court. Everything you do in life can end up in a court. And ballot language, well, we don't like, one group puts together ballot language, this group goes, well, that's not good, we don't like that, so they take it to court to get the ballot language changed.
Right.
And that actually happened on Amendment 3, is they actually the court changed the ballot language. So the ballot language as it's written isn't actually what the people who are supporting Amendment 3 who wanted it on there. That's not actually the way it was written.
Oh, boy.
Okay, it was changed by the court.
Great.
And, Dave talked about the bipartisan commissions in 2010 and 11 and the trouble they had. It was lawsuits left and right.
Yeah.
And it's both parties. I mean, I'm not blaming any one party.
Right.
In the House, there was a Democrat group, and here's the great thing. It wasn't even a Missouri-based Democrat group. It was a national Democrat redistricting committee. I think it's Eric Holder's group at the time. Okay, he was running it. That actually sued in court, and the state party chairman for the Democrat Party is like, I just found out about this today.
Oh, my goodness.
But the Senate map, some of the Republicans didn't like how the Senate map, so they sued on the Senate,
Yeah.
It happens. But, I mean, at least let's close the borders and make sure Missouri people are arguing with Missouri people
Right.
about it.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why I don't like the Clean Missouri that's in place now.
Right.
That's why I don't like the fact that we've got almost $5 million being spent on the Vote No campaign versus $250,000 being spent for the Vote Yes campaign.
Right.
And 75% of the money for the Vote No side is coming from outside our state.
That's why I always say a lot of that stuff is rigged.
Mm-hmm.
I just click it and turn to something else. I don't listen because they're all full of baloney.
This is why I want our government to do less.
Right.
The less it does, the more we
The
get
more
to
it
do on
does.
our own. I think
Right.
we're all better off.
Right.
I think so
Well,
too.
That's
and I
just me.
think, like John said, do your homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
Read whatever questions, and if anybody's out there, talk to your legislators. Make them know. The more you talk to them, and if they know you're from, you know what, we talk to them, so they know us.
Right. Mhm.
But if anybody can do it, and I really recommend this to the younger people. They're gonna be all of us can do it, but our younger people really need to do this, because this is gonna be
Yeah.
their town, this is gonna be their county.
Absolutely.
Get out and know who you're putting in there,
Yeah.
whether it's local, state, or
Yeah.
nationwide.
Do your homework. Just because I'm here saying things doesn't mean I'm 100% correct on everything.
Right,
Check what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm all for that. Double check anything I say, double check anything Dave says.
right.
And let's make
And
this,
make your
and
own.
let's keep our community's voice in Jeff City as strong as possible.
Absolutely.
And like we've mentioned, this is a great community. This is a community you move back to.
Absolutely.
Me and Dave, actually both of us, both the good examples
Yeah.
of moving away, college,
And coming back.
experience a little bit of life, and then coming back here to raise our families, because it's a great place to raise families.
Right.
It is.
Absolutely.
So,
It's a
Yeah.
great hotel.
absolutely.
Well,
I love it.
Sam,
Okay.
it was awesome, and Dave, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Dave.
For letting us know.
Text me later tomorrow to let me know what I did wrong.
Thank you, Dave, for doing that
Right,
for us,
we really
for putting us
appreciate it.
on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Sam, for being
Oh, you
here
bet.
too.
Glad to be here
Yeah.
and
We
speak on
enjoyed
the side
both
of
of
yes.
it, and
on
I'm
Amendment
glad
3.
we had
Yeah.
some phone calls.
Let me repeat that again.
Yeah, that was nice.
I support voting yes on Amendment 3. Sometimes you guys, because it's confusing.
Right.
Let's make it clear.
Right.
I think you should vote yes on Amendment 3 for St. Genevieve's fair representation.
Okay. Okay.
I'd
All
be
right.
remiss if after all that talk, people still didn't know which way to vote.
Right.
Or which way I would prefer
You
they
were
vote.
talking them, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much for,
No,
coming.
I was happy to do
Yeah,
it.
really, we
which
really
was really
appreciate it.
tickled. And I think it is about our show tonight, and we,
Well, can I say something first?
yes, ma'am.
I wanted to say, I have to get
Oh,
on my
yes.
phone because I'm not, let's see here.
Yeah, do you have any announcements?
We have now I have to make it bigger because I can't see, so whoops. We have this will be an annual fall craft and vendor fair. Get where I can bring it up.
Oh, I was wanting to
There we
know
go.
about that.
Okay. It will be held on November 7th, where at the St. Genevieve County Fairgrounds at the Youth Building. Time will be 9 to 3, and we're going to have lots of crafts and vendors, and we will be selling breakfast and lunch. So if anybody's, actually, I think Kim Gilo is the one that you would contact, and her number is 636-346-1876. If it's not completely full by now, you could give her a call if there's anybody out there that wants to be involved. But it's our annual Craft and Fall Fair, and kind of excited to have that. I know nobody's asked me to talk about this one, but there is another one, November
No,
15th.
we're
Okay,
glad.
Kim, wait a minute, this one is November the 7th, if I didn't say that.
Yes.
And that one's at the Youth Building in St. Genevieve. And the other one is November 15th, and it's in Bloomsdale at the Casey Hall, I think. Now, I'm just bringing that up. Nobody asked me to say that, but I do want to say
No,
it's
that
in
is good.
Bloomsdale.
If we have anything, if
Yeah.
anybody has anything to report or say,
It's something.
we'd love to
And I
have
did
it.
have a flyer on
We'd like
that.
to know what's going on.
I've got an announcement then. It's
Well,
not
sure.
political
Yes.
of any
Well,
sort.
hey, that's
all right?
okay.
Love to hear it.
But over at First Baptist Church on Friday this week, we'll have a trunk or treat for the kiddies.
Oh.
All right?
Oh, that's wonderful.
This Friday at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in the parking lot at the First Baptist Church.
Let me put that
Okay.
down again.
You
That's
bet.
First Baptist Church,
Yep.
in case somebody decides to call me or something.
Uh-huh.
Baptist Church, and that's
101 Bosler Drive, but it's 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Friday night.
6 to 7, and it's this Friday?
Yeah,
6 to
Friday.
7:30.
7:30. Yeah, 6 to 7:30.
Okay.
This Friday night,
This
October
Friday night.
October
That's for
30th.
Halloween.
Yep.
Okay. In case somebody wants to call me,
Uh-huh.
my phone number is 883-7011. If you'd like to call me and find out about this, we'll give you the time and the date.
Okay,
Do we have anything else we'd like to announce?
I don't think so.
Don't forget to vote on Tuesday next
Oh, my
week.
gosh, the most important thing, after these guys, Dave and Sam, come on and tell us.
Don't want you to forget about it.
Right.
Don't
make sure
forget to
you
vote
get out
Tuesday.
Tuesday, go out and vote, and if you need to get out there before Tuesday,
Yeah,
go
absentee
ahead.
at the courthouse.
Absolutely,
Before Monday evening.
right, just make sure you go and vote,
Yep, absolutely.
or don't complain.
That's what I put on my Facebook.
If you don't
Vote or
vote,
don't
you can't
vote, that's
Right.
fine. You've made a choice,
You've
but
made
just
a
don't
choice.
complain later about it.
Absolutely,
Okay, if no one has anything else to say, we will wrap it up and say goodnight. And thank
thank
you all
you.
for watching, listening, and thanks for the phone calls. We
Thanks.
enjoy that.
Thank you,
Thanks, good
Sam.
being here.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Sam.
You bet.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.